Hello, welcome to Brian Lomax Movie Talk. Joining me tonight is, Durbania, Christopher Durbin from the channel Durbania. Say hello, Durbania.
Hello, everybody. Excited to talk Smallville.
Yeah, so this is something that's been brewing between the two of us for quite some time.
Yeah, almost as long as we've known each other on YouTube, I think. We kind of connected on a similar Smallville fandom.
I think when I first saw your channel, when I first saw some of your videos, I made a few comments about, because you had like Smallville DVDs in the background. I was like, dude, Smallville.
So actually, you're my inspiration for my season by season reviews right now. You know, I was just like, it's 2020. I need something else to talk about on my channel. And it's like, hey, Brian does all the season by seasons of Smallville. I should do some too.
It's right. I don't know about you, but for me personally, Smallville is like my happy place.
Yes.
It's comfort food television, basically.
Yeah.
And I think we need that right now.
Definitely.
So, you know, there's a lot of shows out there about death and murder and all kinds of demonic type of stuff and this, that, and the other. It's just like, you know what? Right now, in these times, I'm thinking Smallville. So.
Yeah, give me back some of that truth, justice, and all that other stuff.
All that other stuff, yeah. Okay, so Durbin, why don't you tell me and tell people out there first and foremost, just what's your experience with Smallville? When did you get into it? Why did you get into it? What does it mean to you? This, that, and the other.
I didn't get into Smallville till about halfway through when season 1 was premiering on live TV. And of course, at that time, none of that stuff was, the ancient times when I was a senior in high school. None of that stuff was coming out on DVD right away. There was no streaming, nothing where you could catch up on it. I came in the middle and I didn't realize it was a Superman show. And Superman was always my favorite. But right off the bat, I can't even remember what my first episode was. I just remember being completely hooked because I thought Tom Welling was a great Clark Kent. And just the way they told the story. And I remember thinking, well, now that's interesting, because at first I didn't know if I liked it, but it grew on me, the idea that kryptonite affected other people. Because if you want to do a pre-Superman story and you want to find some creative way to give Clark villains, I think the idea that there was a meteor shower of kryptonite in Smallville was brilliant. But anyway, the point is I loved it. And to this day, Smallville has given me my absolute favorite live action Lex Luthor. So to those of you right now who are in the comments who have never seen this show, Smallville has bad days. There are some terrible episodes, but when it goes good, it is great. For instance, Erica Durance is single-handedly the greatest live action Lois Lane. Michael Rosenbaum, there is no live action Lex Luthor that could beat him. And and Lionel Luthor is a fantastic thing to watch on screen.
John Glover. Is there any scene basically with both John Glover and Michael Rosenbaum in is just like,
oh gosh,
that's a show for me. That is the show. And you stick Chloe Sullivan in there as well.
Yes. Lana Lang, I can't stand. I can't stand her.
We'll get there.
Anything about her. But the point is Chloe Sullivan. Oh, I love Chloe. Beginning to end, I love Chloe. What a great addition to this show.
Yeah. Just basically, they had Pete, who obviously is Clark's high school best friend from the comic books. Yeah. And they invented this character, Chloe Sullivan, which was clearly there to be the Basil exposition.
Yeah.
And Pete was supposed to be the best mate. He was going to be the one who'd probably get into most of the scrapes with Clark. But clearly, somewhere along the way, they recognized just what they had in Alison Mack. And say what you want about her private life, some of the craziness that's gone on there. Don't really want to talk about that. We'll talk about Smallville.
Not at all.
But as an actor, she was phenomenal in this. And she was so perfectly cast and she was so perfect for the role that she just kind of blossomed throughout the first season. And then Pete very quickly started to take a back seat. And Alison Mack's Chloe kind of took on not just the Basil exposition role, but the role that really was kind of meant for Pete, that best friend kind of role.
Yeah.
But obviously, because she was of the opposite sex as well, she could then also play the romantic role card. So,
yeah.
But
which they went back and forth on that, and that was some of that was little teenage drama-y, and that's more later, not what we're going to talk about for this season. But but Chloe overall is a fantastic character, and probably. Oh, did you notice this in Man of Steel when Clark is being picked on by the bullies when they're doing that flashback? Jonathan Kent is under that barn, and they're looking out, and right above it says Sullivan's. Did you ever notice that? That Man of Steel did a nod to the Sullivans. I was like, oh, no freaking way. Even Man of Steel recognized how great of a character Chloe was.
I would love her character to get put into regular continuity. To be honest.
I would too. I mean, they did it for Harley Quinn and Batman the Animated Series. Chloe is fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. So, obviously, Lionel Luthor and Lex, I think most Smallville fans, particularly me anyway, would say they're the best two characters. Besides Clark, obviously, who has to carry the show much of the time. But certainly, Lex and Lionel, they really make it for me. Question is, we've talked about Chloe also kind of being a good making point. Question is, just from season one perspective, try and keep it focused on season one.
Yeah.
From a season one perspective, who is the character who breaks it?
The one who breaks it.
We talked about the ones that make it. Which is the character that breaks it?
I got it. Give me a second. It'll come. Hold on. Gosh, that's hard. I mean, I just rewatched season one, and I forgot how good it was. But who breaks it for me in season one?
So I thought your answer would come a lot quicker than
What's
this,
your
to be
answer?
honest.
What's your answer?
Well, my answer is Whitney Fordman, but we'll get to that.
Annoying. Yes, he's annoying. I mean, Lana breaks everything for me all the time.
This is what I'm saying.
I was trying to go season one perspective because comparatively, as the show goes on and they try to make her more important, they make her worse. So, like, comparatively, she's not as bad. So I didn't want to jump to that, but she breaks it for me all the time.
Okay. I will say that in my most recent of rewatches, I do think Lana has some pretty solid stuff throughout the first three seasons with regards to individual moments.
Right.
But never has a good arc.
Yes.
Lex always has a really solid arc across the season and character growth. Clark always has a really solid arc across the season and character growth. And Lana's kind of like, don't quite know what to do with her. So she'll amble about and do something that looks like it's going to be important, but then gets dropped by the wayside by the time the season ends. So, but as a character, Whitney Fordman, for me, just annoys me. Seriously annoys me. Because he was clearly set up at the start of the season to be a foil for Clark, the rival love interest and that. But they never give this guy any character until literally the last few episodes of the season, when they kind of they start to realize, actually, we've done nothing with this guy. We don't know who he is, what makes him tick. He goes from being a complete douchebag one minute to being really supportive the next. And they shoehorn in this story towards the end of the season involving his father to try and humanize him a bit. But for me personally, it's too little too late. So if you could take one character out of the first season and I just wouldn't care, it would be.
But you know why he's in season one, right? It's the cover shot for season one with Clark with the S on his chest hanging up like on a scarecrow thing. That's his whole purpose is to give us that shot. And I bet you're right. I bet they had no plans for him other than Lana's boyfriend and an obstacle for Clark. Yeah. Little did they realize how pointless Lana would become and how bad it makes Lana look that she's just like so into the, like, first off, he is senior scum that he is dating this freshman girl. And, you know, I could get into the fact that in season 4, here's Lana still in high school dating a guy that's outside of high school, which just continues to reflect so poorly on Lana. But you have senior scum dating her, so he's already not good there. It reflects bad on Lana. I don't know. Like, he's not a good character, but half my annoyance with him is really just my annoyance for Lana and misdirected anger hitting him, because Lana just is one of those characters that I kind of agree with you. For her to kind of be there for the first 3 seasons, it's okay because it is part of Superman lore that he likes Lana, but she just did not have anything like what Chloe had. Like Chloe just had it all. She had the friendship thing and I mean, she was just in Clark's orbit. She was in Clark's world and had such great chemistry. And so I feel like everything that they probably dreamed Lana would be became everything Chloe actually was.
Yeah.
And Lana just is so melodramatic, so teenage drama melodramatic for me that it's hard for me to really like her and what she's going through. So I agree with you. I don't like Whitney. And if they took him out, it probably would not affect season 1 all that much. But he is a weight because of how annoying Lana is to me.
Okay. I think, like I say, for me personally, Lana didn't become too much of an annoyance until once we were hitting season 4 and we're still not getting over this hurdle that is Lana.
Oh, gosh.
That's the point where I was like, you know what? Time to go. Especially once Lois Lane comes in. It's like Lois Lane's
and in my
here.
rewatch, I'm finding that same thing, that exact same thing. What you said is true.
Yeah. Okay. And so with that, I will just mention that, I got into Smallville during the 3rd season. They were playing reruns, daily reruns of the first 3 seasons on a channel called E4 over here. And I caught a few episodes from season 3 that really piqued my interest, but I didn't kind of watch it religiously or anything. But then season 4 hit, and I remembered thinking, I liked a few of those episodes. Season 4 starting, I'll watch that, and I watched every episode of season 4 when I got home from university. And then as soon as season 4 finished, I was like, I need more Smallville. So I went out and I bought the first 3 seasons on DVD and just binge watched a lot. And then, the rest is history. I've been a Smallville fan ever since. But that's my background. Shall we get in to our top 5, bottom 5? Starting with the bottom 5. We'll start with our bottom 5 choices. So what's going to happen is Durban is going to give his bottom 5. I'm going to give my bottom 5. But we're going to go like his 5, my 5, then his number 4, my number 4, his number 3, my number 3, so on and so forth. And we'll see how similar they may or may not be. It'd be interesting to know which ones we both have in our bottom 5. So we'll lead with Durban as he's the guest. Durban, why don't you tell us what is your number 5 of your least favorite episodes?
Well, number 5 of my least favorite is Cool, which, even though it's called Cool, no, the episode is not a cool episode. I will say something that I like about it, and this is not really a compliment towards the episode, but again, it's Lex Luthor. Like, Michael Rosenbaum is the best Lex Luthor, hands down. Because what I love about season 1 Lex is how invested he is in his and Clark's friendship. So what I love about season 1 is, even though Lana's dating the pointless quarterback, I forget where he is in this episode, but Lex buys Clark and Lana tickets to a concert and even offers Clark the limo to take Lana in. And you get to see the heart of Clark, that he finally gets to kind of go on this friend date with Lana and all this cool stuff, and he sacrifices it to save Chloe. So it does have that cool stuff where, again, you see the heart of Clark, how he's willing to lay stuff down to help those around him. And I love seeing that Lex and Clark friendship. But honestly, like, the character Sean is so cheesy. And I don't think it's the actor's fault. Like, I'm not sure that he did a particularly bad job. It's so bad. I wrote down this line: "I need heat, Clark. Contact." Because he's like, "I'll get you to the hospital." And just even the way that line is delivered, it's so hokey and so bad. And all the while I'm watching it, I'm thinking, this is the villain Parasite, but done horribly.
Yeah.
And like, I think Parasite actually comes in later on in the show, and they actually do that character horribly. But this is just a really cheap version of that character, and it just felt cheap. It felt cheesy. And so to me, this was one of those cheesy. Like, it wasn't that bad. Like, when I was rewatching, I was like, oh yeah, this is a little bit better than I remembered. But overall, it's still one of the just 5 worst for me in the first season.
Yeah, definitely. It's it is an episode that was under strong consideration to go in my bottom 5. There was 7 that I had to choose from. So coming up with this bottom 5 was really tough.
It was. It really was.
Yeah. So I had 7 possibilities that could go in the top 5. So I had to get rid of 3, and Cool was one of them. Like you say, it's just, as with most episodes of Smallville, even the terrible ones, even the worst episodes of Smallville, because they often have both an A plot and a B plot going on in most episodes, and even in some cases a C plot.
Yeah,
you often get like a really good B plot or C plot that the kind of makes you wish they'd focus on that aspect of it more. And more often than not, the Freak of the Week story, which is usually the A plot, that's where it can make or break an episode. And with Cool, you're in that territory where it just, that A plot, the Meteor Freak of the Week A plot, it just feels so half-assed.
It does.
So yeah, it does let it down, despite some of the really good stuff going on in the B plot.
And did Clark kill in that episode? I got you here, so I'm going to ask you, because Clark threw Sean in that water, and it froze, and he died. I know Clark didn't intend to kill him, but technically Clark, with his strength, hurled that teenage kid into that water.
Yeah, just wait till you get to season 6 and the episode Wither.
Yeah, I remember.
All right, I'm saying nothing more than that. Watch the episode Wither, and then come back at me with your criticisms of Man of Steel. Right, so my number 5 for my bottom 5 is the episode Shimmer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is not a good episode. And again, it is that A plot. It is the I'm pretty sure there was something going on in the B plot with this that was actually quite good, quite entertaining. But it is so bogged down by this brother-sister plot. So you got this brother who can go invisible, and it's not even a Meteor Freak power. He has to paint his body. So
just think how long that would take just to do what he wants to do.
Oh, missed a spot.
Oh crap! My back is showing.
It's just it is ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous, especially when you consider some of the timings that go on in it when it feels like it's almost this instantaneous. It's ridiculous to think that this guy's running around naked in this house. And it's just, yeah, it's the motivation, not only the motivation, but the fact that you can clearly see the twist coming.
Yes.
A mile off. So they have the brother and the sister kind of in rooms together whenever something's going on. Somebody's reporting or something's gone missing. I don't know where it is. And you'll have the sister kind of saying something. She'll be the only one that speaks. And she comes off as a bit weird, a bit kind of creepy, a bit too infatuated with Lex. And the dead giveaway that is not her is the fact that the brother is always skulking in the background, kind of looking. And you just like, it's that. red herring kind of, I'm going to try and steer the audience away, but you're fooling nobody kind of mentality. So yeah, it's not handled well. The A plot is just lame, to say the least. And like I said, I can't even remember what the B plot was for this, but
I watched it recently and I can't remember what it is.
Given that the A plot involves Lex, chances are the B plot was pretty crap.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll move on. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is Reaper, and I want this one to be better than what it is, but I sit here and I watch this episode, and I won't say too much about season 3 because we're on season 1. But there's a plot line in season 3 about the power in Clark's blood and the power to resuscitate in life. And in this one, all it is a simple, stupid meteor rock in his wrist on a bracelet. He falls out a window, and just because the stupid rock is smashed into his wrist, not only does he not die, whoever he touches turns to ash. It's just, it's one of those episodes that I watch it, and I'm just kind of shaking my head like, okay, there's 2 episodes I skipped when I watched season 1. Why was this not number 3? Because it's like, why am I sitting here subjecting myself to this episode? And even coming out of it, like, my struggle in putting this list together was putting bullet points to talk about, because sometimes they're just so bad, they leave you with nothing. But I mean, I get it. Smallville season 1 had a lower budget, and it was 2001. But even so, whenever people melted into skeletons and ash, it looks like they turned into a cartoon character and then melted and turned into ash. It was just so bad. And so this is just one of those. The A plot was just so unbelievably bad, which is such a weird villain that I don't know. And to me, it's like, I love the idea of kryptonite giving people powers. Like, what an interesting concept. And sometimes they execute it well. This was a case where this was stupid. This was a dumb execution. Kryptonite is not some smart rock that could sit there and go, oh, well, hey, this guy died and I'm attached to his wrist, so I'm going to give him the power to suck life away. But whatever, man.
No, it's true. It's like, obviously this isn't a real thing. It's made up for fantasy, but you still have to have an internal logic.
Yes.
And there's always this thing with the meteor rock that the powers always come from the fact that the meteor rock takes on certain properties of whatever crisis it's been involved in, you know?
Yeah.
So this is literally just half-assed. They've literally just said, oh, the meteor rock caused it. But there's no science behind it, you know?
Yeah,
and
I mean,
I
even
get
if you're going to make up science, it's like you said, give us a baseline internal logic that works for the show, because what we just saw there was kind of dumb.
Now, I will say that the episode does have a pretty decent B plot that raises it a bit higher, I would say. But unfortunately, those brownie points are taken off it because the B plot is all about Whitney Fordman. So we'll push that to one side and we'll move on. But yeah. So my number 4 is, and I think this may be a controversial choice because I gather that some people actually really like this one. But yeah, for me, it's Metamorphosis. Yes. So this is the second episode of Smallville, second episode of the first season. And for me, I think it has the unenviable task of following the pilot episode, which is a really strong episode. The pilot episode is, for me, one of the strongest pilots I've ever seen on a TV show. The way it sets up the world, the rules of the world, all the various integral characters, and just the fact that Warner Brothers clearly went to town on it. You know, the whole meteor shower stuff. They go big with it. It still looks good even today. You know, we talk about some of the shoddy effects throughout season 1. That pilot episode still holds up from it. You know, the action in it is pretty intense. So yeah, they threw a lot of money at that pilot, and it shows. And then they follow it with Metamorphosis, Bug Boy, which is basically, yeah, it's X-Files 101. Now, I know when Smallville first came out, a lot of people wrote it off as a Buffy kind of rip-off. You know, it's just another Buffy. And to that, I always say those critiques are wrong. It's a load of rubbish. What it actually is an X-Files rip-off. Because the X-Files predates Buffy, I'll have you know, and a lot of the meteor freaks that we see in Smallville, you can equate to a similar freak in the X-Files. If you take somebody with meteor freak powers, whatever that power is, I guarantee you will find an X-Files episode in which somebody has the equivalent of that power, but not the meteor rock to give it them. So for me, Smallville always ripped off the X-Files when it came to certain elements of it. Now, I think people latched onto it as saying it's a Buffy rip-off because it takes place within the high school. But for me personally, it doesn't deal with primarily vampires and that. There's a lot of other stuff, and that other stuff is ripped straight out of X-Files. Now, this, for me, it was the Bug Boy that did it. And I just didn't like him. I didn't, yeah. There's just something inordinately creepy about this guy right from the get-go, and it's something that Smallville does quite a lot, in which they have stalkers of Lana. How many stalkers Lana has had?
Oh my god!
I have
It's
no
another reason
idea.
I can't stand her. That the writing around her is terrible. Like, I mean, yes, she's pretty, but I can't understand why she has this many stalkers all the time.
There's a few good episodes dotted about here and there where they circumvent that expectation of the stalker. So I'm thinking like the guy with the kryptonite bullet in season 3. That's season 3.
Was a great one. Yes.
That's a good episode. Like, that's one where you roll your eyes. Like, oh no, another stalker for Lana, and then he gets popped, and you're like, oh. Yep. This is going somewhere I didn't know about.
It's something different.
yeah, but it's just like the fact that you roll your eyes at that point, at that intro, is simply because how many people seriously have to be infatuated with this woman? We get it, okay?
Her personality isn't even that good. It's just
So, taken within the context of season 1, obviously, it is just the second episode. So at this point, this is essentially Lana's first stalker. So it's fresh. It's not something we've seen done to death. So I can understand why, people who are fans from the beginning are maybe not that down on it. Obviously, I came to this after watching season 4 and then coming back and then watching from the beginning. And I was just like, this character for me, just really not doing it. It's not a good A-plot. I don't like Whitney. Lana's a bit all over the place in this, and it's just, what can I say? And again, it's a come down from that pilot, because the pilot was so good.
Yeah.
And then the next episode after it is this, and it picks up directly after the pilot. So like literally, we get the very last shot of the pilot starts this episode. And then feeds into the next scene. So because they do that, you feel like it should be the second part of the bigger story, and it's not. It's just a random episode, which is actually a bit
first freak of the week.
Yeah, first freak of the week, and not a very good one, it must be said.
Yeah, this is not in my bottom 5 nor my top 5. This one is right in the middle for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I might be being a bit harsh on it. I don't know, but it's just, for me, it's never gelled with me. And I've watched it a few times, and each time I keep hoping I'm going to see what everyone else sees in it, and I just really don't. It does set up, as do the next few episodes that come after Metamorphosis. It does set up the notion that actually Freak of the Week episodes aren't as good as non-Freak of the Week episodes.
Yes.
That will become very evident, I think, when we see our top fives. So yeah. But number 3, what is your number 3?
My number 3 was Shimmer.
Okay.
And since we just kind of talked about that with you, I won't do a super deep dive. It's just, to me, it was just a very irritating episode. It just that Lexus Stalker was just so irritating. And I hadn't seen it in a while when I did my last rewatch, so I forgot at first it was the brother, but it's so predictable. It didn't take long for my memory to be jogged and go, oh, that's right. It's the What's wrong with the brother? The girl is that irritating. The sister is this obsessed, stealing Lex's stuff. She has built a shrine to Lex Luthor. And rather than him in his own mind going, let me help my sister by, getting her dehooked and helping her realize this is a teenage obsession and you're going to live on. No, instead he makes it worse and tries to kill everybody. And it's like, I have a hard time following any motivation in this show or this episode. I mean, with this show, I do so much suspending of my disbelief, but I'm having a hard time doing that for the brother's motivation.
Yeah, it's pretty poor, it must be said. It's like if you're going to give us these Freak of the Weeks, you have to get us to identify with them in some way. And more often than not, they are just nut jobs for the sake of being nut jobs. And they play it up to the hilt.
And what I really didn't like about the Whitney plot was not the Whitney plot, but the Clark and Lana high school drama. Will he ask her out even though she's dating Whitney, but his dad is dying and going through all of this stuff, so maybe this isn't the time for Clark to steal. I'm like, this is Superman. Why am I sitting through this? I mean, I get a little love drama does add a little tension and it adds a little character. And so it's not like I'm totally against Clark and Lana, especially since she is so much a part of Superman lore in those early years. But I'm sitting here watching this episode and maybe it's latter season Lana kind of interfering with what's happening present day and what I know is going to come up later. But I'm just sitting here going, how much better could this have been if they spent less time on this and actually built up those motivations and they could have made these villains more sinister?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it is that need to always have the A plot and the B plot.
Yeah.
It really scuppers them. Because obviously it's a show that runs on these 3 main characters. Now, the majority of shows like this, like you think of Buffy, you think of X-Files, they'll center on either 1 or 2 main characters that we follow all the time. So Mulder and Scully will be working the same investigation. Buffy has help from people, but she's always the main focus, and the other characters kind of join in with her. But this show was always built on the fact that you've got this trio. You got Clark, Lana, and Lex, and they always kind of have the 3 of them need to be always on their own trajectory, but crisscrossing. And I think that's where they came unstuck a lot of the time, because each episode they tried to do that. And
what was best about season 1 especially is when they ignored Lana and you were seeing the trajectory of Clark and Lex, because I mean, come on, they're their experiences in season 1, they're mirror images of each other, and so it's their trajectory is the most fascinating thing. And so it's like, I don't know why you have to have a trio. Why not a duo? I mean, that's really what the show is. It's these 2 main characters' destiny. Yeah. And so, I think you especially see it in Shimmer when they have to throw in the Lana stuff. It's like, this is wasted.
Because the thing is, whenever you're watching this, you know that Clark and Lex are destined to go to Metropolis together, to be adversaries. But we know that Lana is not destined to go Metropolis. We know that she's not destined to be his true love. It's like we know that Lois Lane is going to be his true love. So the very fact that they play this up so much, I think people would have appreciated Lana so much more if her story arc would have lasted until the end of season 3. Then they bring Lois in, phase her out through season 4, and then that's it. She's done with.
Actually, I say that in my season 3 review that I'm dropping Sunday. I make that exact tomorrow. I make that exact point.
Yeah. It just would. It just would. Right. So where we're on. Now this is a funny one actually, because I'm cheating here, because I do actually know what Durban's choices are. He doesn't know what mine are. I had to know what his are in order to do these cards, and I can tell you that we both have the same one up next. So this is my number 3, and it's Durban's number 2. So I'll announce it now, because then we can just both talk about it.
That sounds good. I like it.
Yeah. So my number 3 for the bottom, and Durban's number 2 is
Drone.
Okay. Go on.
Look at that bee face. Gosh dang it. That's just awful. That is awful.
It looks like leaves. It looks like autumn leaves or something.
From a Bugs Bunny cartoon where they tried to, I don't know. It's just terrible.
Yeah, that is not good. That is not a good look. So
actually, when I was rewatching, this was one of 2 episodes I skipped in my rewatch.
Okay. Again, look, like, as terrible as the majority of these particular episodes are that we're talking about here, there is usually some good stuff in it. Now, this episode does have a story in there in which Clark ends up running for class president. And I do kind of like all that stuff. I like the way Lex comes into it and basically gives Clark his slogan, "The Man of Tomorrow."
Man of Tomorrow. That was good.
Yeah, so there's some good stuff in there. As again, like I say,
back to the point, right? When the focus is Clark and Lex and their trajectories,
yes,
the episode
absolutely
could be kind of boring with not a lot of super stuff going on. But knowing their destiny just makes even these little things that much more interesting, you know?
Yeah, but it's not the super powered stuff that makes it entertaining. It's the character development. It's the like we've said, you can have a scene in which you have Lionel and Lex together in a room talking about Alexander the Great, and it's just
which we
gripping.
Do in Tempest. Great. They're going off on that. Yeah.
So yeah, to me, it's always about the characters, and I think like the meteor freaks always work best when they are serving a theme that is being dealt with in the other plot between Clark and Lex. When the meteor freak is separate from the theme between those two, it usually falls flat. And this one, it's not great simply because the meteor freak is just lame.
It is really
lame. It's a woman who can control bees.
Yeah. And what more can you say? And let me add this: how the episode ends. How does Clark fix this? Because somehow the bees turn on her, and so when the bees turn on her, they go to attack our villain. And I like seeing Clark even rescue the villain, but what's so stupid about it is he throws a screwdriver into a propane tank. So what's his solution? Let's not use my super speed and catch all these bees one by one, which he could do in a second. And the girl's not in trouble. No. Let's blow up a propane tank with fire and debris, and let's just hope me throwing my body on her is enough to protect her. I mean, oh my freaking goodness.
Yeah, it's often a case in Smallville. It's something I've noticed that when an episode is really sucking quite bad, they throw a load of money at it and just blow something up. It's like, well, okay, if we can't get them with the characters, let's just blow some stuff up. They'll enjoy that. So yeah.
And what was in that pipe in the Talon? What I mean, there's no way liquid nitrogen is flowing through there and then coming out in that gas form, right? Like, am I mistaken? Like, what could that possibly be?
Oh man, I have no idea. Oh, I not even got to our number 1 yet. My cheeks are hurting. Oh, good
Oh
grief.
my gosh.
Yeah, it's not great. It must be said. So that was your number 2, my number 3. My number 2. Get ready for some dude bros.
Let's do
This
this.
is KINETIC.
Oh.
So yes, everybody's favorite character, Whitney Fordman, has an episode centered on him.
Why?
Now,
Why?
it comes a bit late in the day, so we're like 2/3 of the way through the season at this point, and this is where they suddenly decide, actually, you know what? We could probably do with fleshing out Whitney Fordman a bit, because at the moment,
right when we're about to write him off the show, let's flesh him out.
So, yeah, it's. I listen to this podcast. Obviously, I'm a big Smallville fan. So I'll plug this podcast for anyone who doesn't know about it. A podcast out there called Always Hold On to Smallville. It's presented by this guy named Zach, and he gets different guests in every episode. You know, he gets whatever guest he feels might be relevant to talk about that particular
Brian, I
episode.
would love to be on your podcast.
So he I thought this episode, I always thought this episode was quite bad, just because I don't like Whitney Fordman, so an episode centered around him isn't going to grab me. But listening to this podcast, this Always Hold On to Smallville podcast, and listening to these guys just rip into it, it just made me hate it even more. And it's they literally counted. So they counted how many times for those who don't know, the episode centers on these jocks, and this is another trope, particularly of season 1 of Smallville, is that jocks are douchebags. And if you want a villain of the week, you want a douchebag villain of the week, Jock. That's like their go-to guy. Basically, the whole football team, by the time you get to the end of season 1, has probably been some kind of freak or whatever, some meaty freak.
Yeah, that's true now that I think about it.
So, I mean, there can only be so many people on that football team, surely. But so these are all ex-jocks. These are jocks from previous years who are now. So they've got this. I get this episode confused as well with another one that's got the home improvement kid in it from season 2.
Oh yeah, that's season 2.
And they Chris
home improvement actors in season 2.
Yes,
how crazy is that? Yes. But anyway.
So I can't remember what the power is, but basically he falls in with this wrong crowd of jocks, and they all call each other dude and bro, and just. Like I say, the guys on Always Hold On to Smallville podcast, they counted how many times these guys say dude or bro, and it's like, and it was astronomical. It's a joke. The whole episode is one big joke. And I'm sorry, but the guy who plays Whitney Fordman, I can't even remember his name. He can't act. I'll put it out there. He can't act. I don't mean to attack, but I know he went off and he did Flash Gordon as well, which got obliterated by the critics. It was like one of the most obliterated TV shows when it came out.
I never even heard of it. So awesome.
Exactly, it got axed before it even got out the gate, to be honest. But
like the Wonder Woman show they tried to do a while back.
Yes. So yeah, the dude can't act. So when they try to give this guy some character, it doesn't quite work. He flip-flops so much between being a douchebag and between someone who actually cares for Lana and someone who does help Clark out, to then someone who is just a douchebag again, that I would swear this guy has got bipolar. it would not surprise me to learn that he's got bipolar.
He's probably got a meteoric infused version of bipolar, which is why he's able to go to such extremes so believably, right?
I would say so. Or split personality or something. This guy is he's all over the place. So yeah, I don't enjoy this episode. I can't stand the character. I think whenever the series focuses on him too much, it just derails. So that's why it's my number 2.
That's it, and the power is kind of stupid because isn't it the tattoo that causes his molecule to reverberate so he can walk through solid objects? So it starts promising, with those guys walking through Lex Luthor's walls and stealing stuff, and you're like, this could be good. But yeah, it kind of just veers off into that freak of the week territory.
Yeah. There's one nice touch when you see an arm that's been left in a wall.
That was cool, yes.
But then you kind of got to wonder, how did that guy not just bleed out instantly?
Yeah, like how did it fuse together so quickly that the blood just did not squirt everywhere, and then they identify him through his DNA?
Yeah, it's a bit.
Yeah,
whatever.
Suspension of disbelief goes extreme sometimes on Smallville.
Big time. Again, that whole scientific explanation not forthcoming at times. So your number 1 for worst of season 1 is
Craving. Oh, that was a horrible episode. And I rewatched it for you, Brian, because I know you're okay with it because of Amy Adams, our future.
It made my 7. It made my 7.
Okay, it's horrible. I mean, every time, like when I think of worst episodes, I don't like Drone, but this goes above Drone for me because, like, number 1, not trying to sound insensitive or anything, but her fat suit looks awful. I mean, it is one of the worst looking things I've ever seen. And the other thing is, again, this is a picture of stupid kryptonite where they don't lay this baseline. How is this working? Just because she's using kryptonite in the soil to grow vegetables and then grinds it up in a shake. Who grinds up rocks in a shake? And how can rocks be grinded up and become something liquid to drink? Get over yourself there. But anyway, she drinks
mineral water. Hello.
Oh, okay, you win that argument. But the fact that it can actually, that kryptonite is intelligent enough to go, oh, this is a weight loss program for a human being of this world. So let's go ahead and make her a fat-sucking vampire. And then that whole plot, like, I have never seen a dumber idea conceived for a villain in my life. She hits a deer and her jaw unhinges, which, you know what? It looks a little fake, but it's also kind of creepy. Like, if she was a decent villain, like, that could be cool, except she's doing it to suck the fat out of the deer. What is that? What is that stupidity? And that's all she does. She goes around sucking fat. Just what? I mean, this episode, it's just, every time I watch it, it just absolutely boggles my mind. It's so stupid.
Now, all that being said, and by the way, this is a riff on an X-Files episode called Too Shy about a fat sucker.
No. Is it really?
That is that. Yeah, and it's a very good episode, it must be said. Because it does actually deal with thematically, it's very well thought out, unlike this episode.
Right.
I can't disagree with anything you've just said. I will let you know, I'm sure you'll be pleased to know that the Always Hold On to Smallville podcast also rated this the worst episode of season 1.
Kindred spirits right there.
There you go. So that should give you a reason to go and check that out. But there's 2 things about this episode that stopped it getting in the bottom 5 for me. And they are Amy Adams. They are the 2 things. Amy Adams is my favorite actress. Okay. I've made it no secret. I've done a top 10 of hers on my channel. I even watched Leap Year because Amy Adams was in it. That's, so I will literally watch anything with her in. But I think she's such a tremendous actress, and I think her ability is on display here. It's just a damn shame that it's in this episode.
Yes.
I can't argue with how bad this is, and I can totally understand why anyone would put this as number one. But hey, I've got a soft spot. And I
get that. I totally get the soft spot. I like Amy Adams. I don't have that same soft spot. And this is truly terrible to me. Except for the one plot line of meeting Dr. Hamilton. I hate it when Smallville does the worst episode ever, and then they sneak in the one thing that you really do need to see.
That you have to have. Yeah. It's like when people ask, it's like they say, look, I want to watch Smallville, but I'm not interested in watching the whole series because it's 10 seasons long. Just tell me what the most pivotal episodes are so that I can just watch them. And it's like, no, I'm not going to do that, because actually some of the most pivotal episodes are also the worst. So
sad truth.
Yeah, Skinwalker, we're looking at you.
I love and dislike that episode, but anyway.
Oh man. So yeah, literally it is the one saving grace. Like if it wasn't Amy Adams in that role, I would probably skip this episode. The other ones that are on my list, that have been on my list so far, they're ones that I can quite easily skip. When I'm going through my box set and I'm going down the DVD menu and stuff, I'm thinking, yep, I'll watch that one. I'll watch that one. When I get to Craving, I hover over it and I'm like, oh man, I don't know. And then I'm like, Amy Adams. And then I stick it on. So what can I say? That is.
Well,
what?
I watched
Wizzy Lizzy. Amy Adams was in Buffy too.
Was she really?
Is that right?
I never watched Buffy, so I actually don't know. And everybody tells me because I love Smallville, I love Buffy, so I gotta watch it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't surprise me.
I've seen a few episodes of Buffy, but I never got into it like everyone else. But if Amy Adams is in there, I suppose I've got to watch it.
Yeah.
But I've got to now.
Look at that! You gave Brian a whole brand new show to watch.
Yeah, or at least one episode of a whole brand new show. Right. Okay. So that was your number one, Craving, which I admit is as bad as you say, but
it's terrible.
My number one, and it's already been on your list, it's Reaper.
Bad one.
Man alive, this episode, I tell you. Okay, so as I said before, it does have a pretty good B plot in it involving Whitney's father. And so Whitney's father is ill and he's basically dying. He needs treatment. But he wants to see his son play football and stuff. And Clark, despite having every reason to go against Whitney and use this time in which Whitney is once again being a douchebag, to steal Lana from him and get in there with Lana, he learns what's happening with Whitney's dad. And as a result, he doesn't take the chance with Lana, and instead he gets Lex to put on this game thing so that his dad can come basically and see him. Now it's a really great moment from a character perspective for Clark and Whitney. But again, I have absolutely no investment in the character of Whitney. This is right near the tail end of the season. This is almost the end of the season. And again, like once you know that Whitney leaves in the last episode of the first season, it makes this even more redundant. There's even less reason I should care about him as a character, knowing that in literally about 2 episodes from now, he's gone. So that's the B plot, which is actually quite good, but irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. The A plot, which we already discussed, which was the Meteor Freak, is the worst Meteor Freak A plot that I've seen on the show. Certainly the worst of season 1, put it that way. Like you say, no science, no explanation, no real explanation given as to why this guy is the way he is. And the guy playing that part, now it could just be the script. He could have been a bad one. You put the character in something else. I mean, Alan Ritchson, who would play Aquaman in Smallville.
Yep.
I wasn't the biggest fan of him. He was probably my least favorite of the Smallville version of Justice League. But by all accounts, he's actually made a pretty good career for himself. He's doing some pretty good stuff in Titans at the minute, apparently. I didn't even recognize him, to be honest. I saw him in an episode of Titans, and
wasn't he Raphael in the 2 new Turtle movies?
Yes. Yep. So again, I'm not going to rag the actor too much because I can't say I've seen him in anything else. But based purely on this episode, he was abysmal. There was no life in this guy at all, which is quite ironic because he was playing the character who had died.
Reaper.
But just I have seen more charisma in a plank of wood, quite frankly. And it was just, this was a character that needed to really try and get some emotion out of the audience, because what he's doing is a pretty harsh thing, like he kills his mum, like a mercy killing, and then he comes to this realization that he can do that as a service to the world, and it's just it's euthanasia basically. It's an episode about euthanasia, and there's really no way to do that and get anything good out of it. It's not good. It's terrible. In fact, it's got terrible performance in it from the actor, and that A plot just takes up so much time as well. Like, it takes up so much screen time and they do so little with it. So for me, this is the one that I definitely skip over. I have no compulsion to watch this episode whenever I'm going through season 1. So
it doesn't add much, so
no,
for sure.
Okay, so that is the bad.
On Smallville.
Now that we've ripped on Smallville, I wanted to end on a positive, which is why I felt we should do bottom 5 first.
Yes.
And then end on a positive note, because no one likes to end on a bummer. You really don't. It's been a
great show. So let's rebuild up your expectation to watch.
Yes. Smallville is a great show. When it's at its best, it is one of the best. So there's a reason I watch this time and time again. It's the ultimate feel-good show for me. Puts me in a good mood. So the reason it puts me in a good mood is because it has excellent episodes in it, very much like the ones we're going to discuss now. And first up, once again, is Durban. So, Durban.
Yeah, coming
number 5. Coming in at 5 of your top 5 episodes is
LEECH.
Okay.
And, the funny thing about LEECH and why it's at number 5 and not higher is because LEECH is the beginning of a pattern. So whenever Smallville runs out of something to do, they go, okay, what do we do? Let's flip a coin. He is either going to get red kryptonite or lose his power. And so this was like the beginning of that pattern. But since this is season 1 and this is the first time it happens, I feel like what they do with Clark losing his power in this episode is brilliant, because really they've done a good job up to this point and kind of showing you that, Clark, he's okay with himself. He loves his powers, but you also feel the weight and the burden that he carries. And this episode does a great job of using kryptonite. That lightning hits Clark as he's saving this kid, and the lightning travels through Clark, through the kryptonite, and takes all of his abilities and transfers it into that kid. And apparently that's a Superman thing, because they do something like that very similar in Lois and Clark and a couple other incarnations. And so it all fits. What's cool, though, is first Clark kind of mourns and has a sense of loss without his powers. But then when he's able to play basketball with your favorite character, Whitney, it proves, though, to be this great moment. Like, he gets knocked down and scrapes his elbow, and he's smiling. And he's realizing he can do this and not accidentally hurt Whitney or Pete or anybody else. Suddenly, he has no secret to keep. And you see the smile on his face and the weight off his shoulders. But the other thing this episode does brilliantly, I cannot remember this kid's name for the life of me, but when he takes Clark's powers, he yields to every temptation and every dark desire that he's got. And so what you end up finding is it's the powers never define Clark. When Clark had no power, he was rushing to save who he could save, however he could save them. And what you really see is just Clark's temperament, how much he brings himself down, like holds back his powers and holds himself back from doing all these things that he might want to do and all the selfishness that he could do. You really see what a good character he is when you see this kid lose it. Like, I mean, when he just has a fight with his parents and he throws a police car through his parents' house and stuff, like you really see the danger Clark Kent could be and what Clark Kent chooses to be. And you see the hero he chooses to be even when he doesn't have his powers. So even though, like, when you get deeper in the show, yes, this is the beginning of a pattern. Let's do the coin toss, lose his powers, or red kryptonite. What's great about this one, though, is it really does establish Clark's character, and it does a great job showing you it's not the powers that make him special. It is his heart.
Yeah. And the thing that I like about the episode as well is, and it's a common theme throughout the whole show, in fact, is that we see that the main difference between Clark and this other kid is the parents.
Yes.
So the reason Clark makes these choices, the reason he has this moral fiber is because he has Jonathan and Martha. And when we see this other kid and he gets these powers, he's got this father. He really pushes him. He's a teacher at the school. He always wants his son to. Yeah, he's a grade A douchebag. He's like, yes. he treats his son like he's something.
I bet
less.
He was a jock.
I bet he was a jock, a science jock. And his wife seems quite weak. She doesn't kind of come to her son's aid or anything like that. And so there's a really messed up family dynamic there long before he gets the powers. And that's really what the episode is looking at. It's like this guy goes off the rails because he doesn't have the support network that Clark does. He doesn't have the upbringing that Clark does. And it's explored really well, I think, in 45 minutes. And it is a theme that is constantly explored through the show, especially when it's at its best, I think. Coming back to the Kents is always a good thing. And it's one of the things that I love about Smallville, because how many TV shows, honestly, can you say there are out there where you get to see this kind of relationship between parents and the child?
Oh yeah, it's incredible what they do with that.
So many TV shows these days, the main characters, they have rough relationships with parents, or the parents are split up, or it's
or especially teenage dramas. My parents don't understand me, and they're always so much at odds.
It really is. It really is, and that's kind of the go-to representation of the relationship between teenagers and parents in TV shows. So when you see this relationship between Clark and Jonathan and Martha, it's so refreshing.
Yes.
It's just so good to see this is what a healthy relationship looks like. You know, and for me, I feel like that's what the show is. One of the strengths of the show, when you show people the show, and you know, a lot of people may be coming to it from broken homes or whatever, they can see that this is what a healthy relationship looks like. People talk to each other. Clark is able to express his fears, his hopes, his desires, his everything to Jonathan and Martha. And that's the way it should be between parent and child. And so I love that. And I love that, like I say, we see potentially what Clark could have been without Jonathan and Martha in this other kid. So yeah, that's one of the reasons it is great episode. Didn't make my top 5, but it is a great episode. Where are we? Okay.
You're number 5.
My number five. My number five. We've already touched on it. We've already talked about it a bit. It is Pilot, of course.
Yes.
There's that shot. The money shot for a lot of people, I guess, if you're that way inclined. It is the poster that kind of sold the show for much of the time. I will say at this point, because I know what your number four is. It is, of course,
The Pilot.
Pilot. So we'll
Yes.
talk about it together. Yeah. So Pilot. For me, what makes this so good is, like I said before, Warner Brothers went all out with this pilot.
Yeah, they did.
Often with pilots, shows are finding their feet. They have a rough idea where they want to go, so they set up a few things. The main thing is let's set up our core characters, and then we'll see where we end up, kind of thing. It really felt like Smallville in the pilot episode knew what its concept was.
Yes.
Knew exactly what it was going to be doing. It almost felt like this is going to be a show that has a plan.
Yeah.
Now, had the show not been as successful as it was, and then the studio kind of decided, actually, let's keep going, then they might have had a plan. I do believe that Goff and Millar initially did have a plan.
You can feel it when you're watching the early years. It had a plan. And the latter years, it's not like they're all bad, but they're worse than the earlier years. And I think it's because, well, what do we do now?
Yeah. I would say like season 7 for me is the low point, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's like I say, they threw money at it, but not just let's just effects, Michael Bay it and hope for the best. It's just like, actually, what's the concept going to be? How are we going to get villains in each week? Meteor Shower, we need that. Meteor Shower will play a big part in Clark's fears as well about coming clean with Lana. It'll play a part in Lex's life. It's just this, they're bringing everyone together around this Meteor Shower, and also bringing Clark in during the Meteor Shower as well, which is a stroke of genius, to be honest, because in previous iterations, it was always just Clark came down in a ship. No one noticed it, but the Kents found it. So bringing it down in this meteor shower, which hides it, causes destruction that is then, has after effects for all the years to come. Stroke of genius. Really good. Yeah. Sets up the world. I love the way all the characters are set up, from Lionel, his disdain for his own son, Lex, which kind of right off the bat shows us that actually this relationship, this father-son relationship, again, the parental relationship, that's the main through line through Smallville is you see the relationship Clark has with his parents compared with the relationship that Lex has with his parents.
And that's why they mirror each other so well, and why that's such a brilliant setup, because like you said about Leech with the two parents, I mean, where that really is visible is with Lionel and Alex and Clark and the Kents, because the Kents love their son, and he's taught to look for the good in people. And Lionel hates his son and breaks his son down so much that even when Clark saves his life, all Lex can do is be suspicious about it. I mean, he genuinely loves Clark and is genuinely thankful, but can't get past his suspicion because of his father. And so that whole thing is so brilliantly written.
Yeah, absolutely. I've not much more to say on this, to be honest, because like I said, we already touched on it before anyway. But there's some great father-son moments between Clark and his dad. Just like the bit where he puts his hand in the combine thing.
Oh yeah, that was a great moment. Yeah, where he put his hand down on those blades. Does this look normal to you? And then John comes clean with the alien past and the ship.
Yeah. It's just so well set up, and you don't expect, or well, at least I didn't expect them to come clean with the coming to Earth in the spaceship thing so early, like the first episode. I always thought that'd be like, that's something you save, something you learn across the course of the season. That's the way they did it.
Brilliant, because doing that there in the first episode, they were able to build what they built to Tempest, the season finale.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, great Great episode.
Yeah, I didn't like Electro Boy. That was like a freak of the week in the pilot, but it
Yes, that was the
established
first.
well the effects of meteor rocks on humans,
Yeah.
which that gives us something fun to look forward to.
Yeah,
So that's a good
yeah.
establishing thing. He wasn't like the strongest villain that you could pick to be a go up against Clark type villain for a series premiere.
Yeah, thankfully he is only utilized in a small way. He doesn't, like with Reaper, that villain of the week took up so much screen time and was so dull. This villain of the week, he's kind of takes a back seat to everything else that's going on. He's mainly there to set up this notion of meteor freaks and whatnot. But yeah, I do think that if there was anything that would stop me giving it a perfect score as far as Smallville episodes go, that would be it. But everything else in this particular episode for me was on point.
Especially opening with the meteor shower. That is an action-packed. I mean, not only does it establish the arc they want to establish in the show, it's just action-packed. I mean, like you mentioned Michael Bay movie, it has that feeling, except the camera doesn't shake, so you can see what's happening. It's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Activia 513 says Klex, in other words, the Clark and Lex relationship really hooked me to this show in the beginning. You're not the only one. It's got to be said. That is really the core of the show. Whenever the story is revolving around those two, that's
why you do less screen time with Clark pining for Lana, and you do more screen time of Klex.
Klex.
Yes.
Give me more
no
Klex.
Lana, go more Klex.
Yeah. It was very cool that Clark didn't know he was an alien yet. I loved that reveal.
That was
Agree the villain in the pilot wasn't great, nor the resolution.
Love that shot when he's hanging out in the graveyard and Lana shows up. And what I love about that is when he stands up to talk to Lana, how they frame him standing in front of that angel with the wings. And, it's so on the nose. But at the same time, when you're like me and Superman is hands down your favorite superhero of all time, any amount that they do a foreshadowing that he's this guardian angel, that he is this protector and all this stuff, it's like, I don't know. I appreciate that stuff because they do a good job in season 1 of giving you a sense of destiny, just constantly throughout the episodes. And this was a small way, and it's a little bit cheesy and it's a little bit on the nose, but every time I look at it, I just smile because it's like, that's his destiny. He's a guardian angel. That really is his calling.
Wizzy Lizzy, brain damage when he throws everyone everywhere. Yes, that is a cornerstone of Smallville. Just the amount of people that, quite frankly, would have brain damage, and that's just the main cast, quite frankly.
So Robin Scherbatsky from How I Met Your Mother, Kobe Smulders, I just was rewatching season 4, and she's in season 4, and Clark runs into the room and he picks her up and he throws her, and I'm just like, you really have to have this suspense of disbelief because
she's dead.
Everybody's Kryptonian, because there's even scenes where people don't know Clark has powers and they use their powers and they hit him so hard in the face where his brain is housed that he goes flying across the room, hits hard stuff and falls down, and they keep talking to him like they know he's all right. And it's like, what world is this where a mortal would survive that?
Yeah. It's great. I love it.
Oh, that was fun.
That's another thing they do on the Always Hold On to Smallville podcast. They have counters for things like that. So
great. I'm gonna have to listen to this podcast now, thanks to you.
every time one of the Kent vans gets destroyed, things like that. So great stuff. Every time someone gets knocked out in order to keep Clark's secret. Classic stuff. Yep.
My wife and I, every time we're watching, we're like, oh, they're unconscious. Clark is going to show up right now. There he is.
Okay. So that was Pilot, which was my number 5, your number 4. So my number 4 is Nicodemus.
That's a decent episode. It didn't make my countdown, but it's decent.
It's a very good episode. I love it. So this is another. You were saying before, you know, there are certain types of episode that they do every season.
Yep.
And like you say, there is usually the one where Clark loses his powers. Oh, what's going to happen there? There's usually the one where Clark's powers get transferred to someone else. Yep. What's going to happen there? And another one, which started here in season 1, something they do every year, is when something happens to the main characters that makes them act out of character. Yeah. So in this one, there's this plant called the Nicodemus plant that is kind of resurrected by Dr. Hamilton, and it spits this spray thing out, and when it gets in people's faces, it just makes those people lose all their inhibitions. So
it's red kryptonite before we had that introduced, but for everybody
else. Yeah, but for everyone else, basically, yeah. So I love it. I particularly love Jonathan storming to the bank with a shotgun to give the bank manager a piece of his mind. So yeah, it's really great. We've, you know, for those who don't like Lana, i.e. Durban,
don't like Lana, get her off the show.
Yeah, even people like Durban, I've got to say, probably enjoyed that scene. I did.
Because it's where she drops all of that stupid BS teenage. So to me, if you were to look up self-entitled millennial in the dictionary, Lana Lang is the picture, because she is just the full pattern for self-entitled millennial. And what's great is when she's on her version of red kryptonite and she's out of character. It's like, she's a real jerk. I like her for the first time in this show right now.
Come on. She's been through a lot. She lost her parents in the meteor shower. She's been raised by Aunt Nell.
No, you can't
we never see.
She's strong and fierce and independent. Don't you dare cut her down and give her excuses.
Oh, man. Okay, so yeah. Nicodemus for me is just a blast. It's a silly episode, but it sets up that trope that will happen each season where characters are out of character, and it's just a blast to watch. It's funny. It's funny seeing these people doing things they wouldn't normally do.
Yes.
So
especially Jonathan shooting Clark with a shotgun.
Yes.
Or Dukes of Hazzard driving. When he's doing his Dukes of Hazzard and he's opening the car door and he's yelling, he's like, "Get out of the road, you stupid driver," or whatever he yells. As the car is still spinning around, door open. It's like, that is so great.
And that's him. That's him doing that stunt. There's no green screen involved. That is him doing the driving. You know, because back in his Dukes of Hazzard days, he used to do the driving and stuff. So yeah, props to Snyder. Props to John Schneider. Okay, so that was my number 4. Your number 3.
My number 3 is Hug. And to me, it's a very fascinating episode, but I think what makes it so high for me is not even so much the villain. So it's interesting because you got Bob and Kyle, and correct me if I got the names wrong or I'm mixing them up, but I think Bob is the one misusing his ability because they were salesmen. And this is stupid, where the kryptonite goes, when the meteor shower happens, the kryptonite goes, "Oh, they're salesmen? I'll give you the power of persuasion." It's like, what? But you gotta put that on the table, because I'm willing to suspend some disbelief, because what I like about this is 2 guys that start off as friends. And now they have these destinies because of these abilities. And one splinters off the dark side, and one, though he becomes a hermit, it's because he refuses to allow the temptation of his power to take him to that dark side. I mean, you even have Bob shaking Jonathan's hand and using his power of persuasion to get Jonathan to sign over the farm, which is like, even Lex Luthor's like, what? All the times I tried to help you and give you money and do all this stuff for you, you signed over your farm. Like, I mean, it's shocking. And so, like, stuff like that's good. But what I love about it is 2 things. Number 1, this is the episode where Lex goes nuts because of Bob, and has a machine gun and shoots Clark. This is Clark's first time getting shot. And this is the first time we actually see that he's bulletproof. And what I like is he's still developing and growing. So it left bruises all across his back. And I thought, well, that's a cool concept. And then by the end of the season, he's in the cab of that truck that explodes and doesn't have a bruise. So it was cool to establish that here, because what you see is his powers growing as he's growing. So that was a cool thing to establish, plus fun to see insane Lex shooting Clark. The other thing is the way they used Bob and Kyle to mirror Clark and Lex, and then wrap the whole episode up with Lex and Clark at the end, and Clark saying, Lex, do you think our friendship will ever be like that? And Lex goes, trust me, Clark, our friendship will be the stuff of legend. Boom! I love it. I love it. Like, to me, that's it. Like, so like the episode, I guess really it's kind of so-so. So it's hard for me to even defend why it's this high, but I love that moment so much. And I love how they took those two characters and kind of, in a way, mirrored the destiny for Clark and Lex. Lex going the dark side and Clark going the light side.
Yeah, it is a good episode. It's very solid. It's probably like a 4 out of 5 episode for me for season 1.
Yeah.
I really like it, but there's a few little holes in it.
Lots of holes. They're not little.
Yeah.
It's the Lex and Clark line to me is so epic at the end. I can't help it, because again, it's that sense of destiny that Smallville gives you, and then you have this great moment. It's like worth it.
Yeah, there's something to do with. I can't remember. It's been a while now since I watched it. It was something to do with, like, one of them said the power works where they tell them what to do, and then they will stop at nothing.
Yep.
To go and do it. And I have this problem where at the end, Lex, he's going after that guy, and then he then turns his attentions to Clark.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense, because in his mind, he should be so focused on getting that other guy. Clark should be secondary.
It's true.
So it's things like that where it's like, well, you're the ones who told us the rules, and now they're breaking the rules for the sake of having a good action sequence.
If I have to interject and defend putting this at number 3, think about it. Lex saw Clark grab a hold of Kyle and speed off. So he saw a display of Clark's power. So he walks in and does the I Love Lucy line, and he's like, Clark, I knew there was something different about you, Clark. Like the way he says that, it's like, I think in that moment, Clark became the priority because somebody that powerful is guarding his priority. So he's got to remove the obstacle.
Yeah, but the thing is that implies there that Lex has some kind of autonomy. And we've seen in bearing in mind, this episode starts with the guy making the other guy jump out of a building,
that is true.
To end his own life. So literally, as far as this power works, once these guys have shaken hands with someone and they tell them what to do, there is nothing else in their life that matters until they've completed that thing that they've been told to do. So for me, it was just a bit, he's got too much autonomy. Why didn't the other people that had been handshaked have as much autonomy as Lex?
Well, I don't think Clark got in the way, except for with your favorite character, Whitney, when Clark got in the way there.
But so I still think it's a really great episode. I think it's got some excellent moments in it. The moment you talked about being one of them, it just doesn't quite make my top 5, but I do really like it. It's a very solid episode, must be said. Let's have a look. I'm just having a look at some of these comments, seeing if we've got...
Awesome.
Wheelsmith, what if Smallville never introduced Lois Lane and the real Lois was Chloe?
It felt like they were doing that in season 3.
Yes.
When she was using her cousin's name. And I would have been fine with it, because Smallville already has a unique interpretation. I would have been okay. Yeah. But I love Erica Durance. Once we got her, there was no other answer. But before then, I could have been okay.
Yeah. But like you say, if they'd have, I was such a Chloe fan. So if they'd have just turned around and said, yeah, she is actually Lois, I would have been like, oh, come on. And then it'd be about seeing that journey. Yeah. I know that was a theory around the first few seasons. Is Chloe actually going to turn out to be Lois? Is that the twist? But yeah.
But once they brought in Erica Durance, there's no going back for me. I mean, I still love Chloe dearly. I do. But once Erica Durance is there, that's it. I mean, she embodied that character better than any other, and I'm just like, yes, that's it. That's Lois.
I love Erica Durance, and she was my number one until I recently rewatched Lois and Clark: New Adventures of Superman, and I gotta say, I've now got a major soft spot for Terry Hatcher's interpretation.
I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, even if it's wrong. But Erica Durance is the best.
When was the last time you watched Lois and Clark?
Oh man, I remember. I think it's even before I moved to California. I still have the whole box set of it. Like I have all of the DVDs, and I watched them all when I got them. But yeah, it's probably been a good decade.
It's a pretty hokey show.
But I like it. It's a fun hokey show.
Yeah, it's fun. And I all my thoughts, my memories from it as a kid were that it was going to be and I really didn't think that Terry Hatcher was going to be anywhere near as good as Erica Durance. But watching it this time around, I was just like, wow, okay. She's actually my favorite Lois Lane right now. But anyway, this isn't the Lois and Clark show.
Right.
Smallville. So let's get on to it. But yeah, Rebecca Ruiz, same. Erica was amazing as Lois. Yeah, but Lois is every Superman movie or TV show. I wish they did something different. And by logic, Lois never belongs in Smallville.
Yeah, but Smallville is unique. Yeah, if you're doing Superman in general, you're right.
Lex doesn't belong in Smallville.
No, but Smallville was meant to be different. I mean, just look at season 2 with the Kawatche Caves. It's not meant to follow any particular path. It is meant to break it creates its own patterns and bad habits, but it's meant to break patterns and kind of do its own thing, which I respect because I feel like they did a great job with it.
Yeah. Wizzy Lizzie, are we coming back for season 2?
Yes, actually, good place to plug it. Tuesday is our plan right now on my channel. So you could join us on Durbania Tuesday, exact same time, and we will do this exact same thing for season 2.
Yeah. We're hoping that if enough people like what we've done here tonight and on Tuesday over on Durbania's channel, we're hoping to go through all 10 seasons. That may take some time, but we're just concentrating on the first 2 for now. See how it goes. Yep. But yeah,
this is our pilot episode.
Yes, this is our pilot episode. Yes, that's right. So there you go. Right, let's get back to it. Branding. Right, so yours was Hug. My number 3, and just for this image alone that is on here, it has to be top 5.
I'm excited.
It's Hourglass.
Yeah.
It's just, man alive. Look at Batman there. Look at it. Look at the dead Batman in the background. If you look closely enough, just that is badass Lex. That is Lex.
Honestly, I wanted this to be in my top 5. The rest of the episode is mediocre for me, but the part. Go ahead. No. See, I've heard this. I've heard this quite a bit, and I actually disagree. I really like the villain in this. The villain's fine. It's just the future stuff is what sells this episode to me.
It does. I do think. I think you definitely lose a star by if you took that future stuff out, but it's so integral into the A plot. Basically, is the only thing.
Right.
This is one of those episodes in which it seems to just be an A plot, and everyone converges on that A plot. Which is the hospital with this guy who ends up growing young, and the woman who sees the future, who's around him. And but but the episode has this theme, of youth and age, and what we do in our youth affecting who we're going to be in our later years, and this, that, and the other. So we're seeing these young characters now, and the great relationships we're having. We see flashbacks to their futures in which Lex is like destroying the world, and this, that, and the other.
So
and then
great.
we've got this character, this serial killer, who in his youth was able to make all the wrong choices, but now that he's an old man, he can't do it anymore, and he's just withering away in a hospital. He gets that youth back and goes back to making the wrong choices. I really like him as a character. I think the actor does a very good job of playing him, and I like that he's not a meteor freak in the sense that he doesn't have any powers. He gets involved in this accident that kind of makes him young again. Beyond that, he's
smart kryptonite that realized water, human mythology, fountain of youth, and he falls in and turns young.
Yeah. So there you go. So like, again, the science, not so much great. I don't really know why a non-electrical wheelchair kind of blows up when it goes into the water, but we'll skim past that. Anyway, so it's not perfect. It does have faults. But just from a story perspective, I really like it. I'm very engaged with all the different aspects. This is the thing. I'm engaged with the serial killer plot because it's a very human villain. It's not a meteor freak. It's just a twisted dude who I think is fleshed out well enough. We talked earlier about villains that they just seem like to be madmen for the sake of being madmen. This is a guy who was going to be. He had dreams of it's basically Hitler. Is Hitler got dropped from art college, and as a result, he went on to wipe out a very large percentage of the world's population. So you got this guy who he's basically his music teacher stopped him from getting into this really fancy kind of piano college place, losing power of speech, and because of that he has this vendetta, because in his mind he knew he was going places. He knew he was going to be a proper classical pianist, and she's essentially destroyed his future. And so he has a vendetta against the family. But the way it's played out, it's very organically done. And I just feel it's really well handled on all fronts. Not perfect, but just quite epic in many ways. So even if you took out the future stuff, I would still find it quite entertaining just because of the villains. So yeah.
See, I don't have too much really to say even negative about this episode, and this would probably be my number 6. So like, I seriously debated about it and where to put it, but I know that whenever I think about it, it's not like the old guy turning young and him going crazy was a bad plot, and everything you're saying is good. But when I think of the episode, what stands out to me is Cassandra touching Clark's hand and seeing a future that he also sees where he's surrounded by tombstones. Like, he outlives the world. So we don't know what he's going to be. We don't know if he's going to be Superman or anything like that at this point. Well, I mean, the audience know, but the show doesn't know. And so what does this mean, him outliving the world? And then the whole thing of Lex being so terrifying that it kills her. Like, that's intense. So like that's what I think of every time I think of Hourglass.
And I love Lex's reaction as well when he's holding her hand and realizes she's gone, and he almost seems sickened by it, and he bombs it out of there. But it's fantastic. Again, anything that centers around Lex, around Michael Rosenbaum, is just so always fantastic.
Yeah.
So that was my number 3. Let's move on to your number 2. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is Tempest, the season finale. Smallville has a habit of fantastic season finales and really, really good cliffhangers. And for their first season, I just feel like they did a great job. It really pays off that he finds out he's an alien in the first episode, because they just do so many good things with it. Like Roger Nixon. This idea that Lex is investigating Clark. He feels bad for investigating Clark. He temporarily stops investigating Clark in season 1. By that point, though, it's too late, and he's kind of already turned the bloodhound Roger Nixon on him. And Roger Nixon finds enough that I can make a name for myself with this kid. And so he figures out Clark's abilities, plants a bomb in Clark's truck, and it blows up with Clark in it. So he has video of Clark coming out of that without a single scratch. And so you have that threat constantly looming. You have a love story I can get behind. Clark and Chloe. The fact that he wised up. He wised up, and he, invited her to prom. I mean, the whole thing with Ryan, where, Ryan saw her mind that she was, looking at a pink dress and all that stuff. And there she is wearing the pink dress, just like all those little details, how they just built it all the way up to this moment was so great. And I felt so bad for Chloe being left in the gym for Lana, although saving her from a tornado. I'll give him that. No matter how annoyed I am with Lana, I don't want her to, die in a tornado. So I'm glad he rushed out to save her. But like the whole idea of the storm building, and probably one of my favorite things about the episode is with the storm raging and we're inside the Luthor Manor and Lex is going crazy looking for the octagonal key, realizing it's missing, and he's ripping his room apart. And then here comes Lionel saying, oh, a coup to go against me. And, the Alexander the Great talk that you and I love so much. But what's just so great about it is their relationship is so twisted and those actors are so good that every time they are on screen together, it steals everything. And so their screen time almost steals the season finale. Like, it's from the very beginning when Lionel lands and fires everybody to the very end when Lex is trying to lead that buyout, and then the storm blows out that window and that pillar collapses on Lionel Luthor. It's like, wow. And Lex hesitates, thinking about letting his dad die, and then he just doesn't have to think about it anymore. But I had this thought when I was watching season 1, and I only think about this because of knowledge in season 7. That window got blown out, but that window is a major clue in season 7 to Veritas. So they must have really fixed that with every detail 100% correct. But I thought about that. But otherwise, it's brilliant, and I love seeing Jonathan. Like, if you really want to tick him off, go after Clark, go after his wife, go after his family, and the way he loses it and chases Nixon into an F5 tornado. And then just real quick, season 2 premiere, when Nixon's about to die, and how much easier it would be for Jonathan in their life if he let Nixon die. But instead, he grabs Nixon and gets him out of the way and saves his life. It just shows you that foundation that Clark has. So I don't know. I love season 1 finale. It was a great finale, especially when the ship leaves the storm cellar chasing Clark. They just left it on so many great cliffhanger notes. It was brilliant. I loved it. So well written.
Yeah. It is a great episode. The other thing about Jonathan Kent, and it's what really endears him to me even more, is that he's not a perfect man. We see that Clark is the way that he is because of his parents, and they could go the route of just making these two people perfect, but they're actually not. And Jonathan's biggest failing is his temper, and ultimately that's the thing that will kill him. It's what will lead to his heart attack. If he could just keep that temper in check, but he can't. So I like that side of him. I like that he does have a temper. He does lose it now and again. He's not a perfect human being. So yeah.
No, it's great.
So my number 2 is, and well, my number 2 is Rogue.
Ooh.
Okay, so do you want to tell people what your number 1 is?
My number 1 is Rogue.
Yay. Okay.
Oh man.
So yeah, this episode for the longest time was my number 1. And it was only on my most recent rewatch. When I decided I wanted to review them for my channel, So I went through them and I watched each episode intricately, and I was like really trying to weigh up, pros, cons, this and the other. This just got edged out by the episode that I thought was my number 2 choice. And the only reason that is, and it's a very minor criticism, it's that. So there's a moment in it when Clark drops. So for those who don't know, it's about this bent cop called Phelan, who learns Clark's secret and then uses that against him, threatens his family if he won't do what he wants him to do. And like I said before, the best episodes of Smallville are always when the villain of the week isn't a meteor freak. When you've got someone who is just using their wits to go up against Clark, it's so much meatier, so much more emotionally raw and driven. And this is definitely that kind of episode. So this guy's getting Clark to do all manner of things that Clark doesn't really want him to do. And Clark has this brainwave of dropping this safe that Phelan wants him to rob, dropping it on Phelan's car outside of the place that he's robbed it. Now, that pretty much puts Phelan in a bit of a tight spot. The problem is we never see how he gets out of that tight spot.
Yeah,
we're just told he's out of it.
But don't you love the way he tells that, where he walks in? You don't walk into a crack house with one plan. You walk in with 10, and he pulls out his inner Jack Nicholson. He's like 10.
Yeah. I think you could say he oversells that a little bit. So, like, if I had a minor criticism about the episode, it would be that there are certain things that they gloss over, and literally just tell you, "Hey, look, we don't know, but just go along with it." And it's like there's no way you can explain your way out of that, but you just do it by having this guy say, like you said, you don't go into a crack house with one plan, you go in with 10. It's like, oh, okay, so we had a plan.
I totally saw Joker, Batman 1989 when he was doing that. I was like, oh my god.
So literally that is the only thing. Beyond that, it is such a phenomenal episode.
Yes.
It really is. My favorite moments are with Jonathan. Again, that whole temper thing coming into play. And even Clark, we see Clark for the first time really lose his temper and punch that beam. And it's just like, it's a genuine bit of emotion, because we're so used to seeing Clark be really kind of like a closed door. He doesn't really let people in that much, other than his mum and dad, but he keeps people at a distance because of his secret. And it becomes a bit of a but it's just great to see him get angry and unleash that emotion, because he must feel it. There must be so many times when he just wants to break skulls,
and you see it come out.
So that for me was a standout moment. But so that's my number 2. Really, it's my number 1. It's joint number 1, but you can only have one number 1. So I had to go with the one that I actually had a criticism for, and that was this one. But
I just love that there's an episode in season 1 where Clark loses his powers, but it's this episode where Clark truly feels powerless. It's just brilliant how they did that, and how Phelan held him hostage with his own abilities and with his own powers. And I think what makes it my number 1 is the raw emotion of this episode, because like you said, so I won't go too much into it, but you see the imperfections of Jonathan. Somebody went after Clark and he gave into his temper right there in public. But then you also see like how much Clark really does take after his adopted father. He comes in so angry and he punches that beam, and how Jonathan and Clark both, they can rein it in when they need to. And so it's interesting as that unfolds. Plus, you got to love the end when Phelan shoots that gun and Clark in slow-mo watches the bullet, looks back at Phelan, looks back at the bullet, kind of gets out of its way one way, looks at it from one angle, comes back the other angle, and he looks at it like, wow, I'm faster than a bullet. And then he takes off running. And I love it when Phelan's like, what are you? Because that's like the number one thing. My favorite line from villains in season 1 is, what are you?
I just think of the 1989 Batman whenever somebody shouts, I was like, what are you? I'm Batman. So,
I'm Superman.
Yeah, okay. So I, again, as well, I think I can't remember much of a B plot in this one.
No, I feel like this plot takes over everything. Like this is there might be a little one if we both go back and look at it, but this pretty much takes over everything.
Yeah. So if you want a really strong episode, a really great episode of Smallville, there are certain rules you have to follow. 1, no meaty freak.
Yep.
2, just an A plot, which involves all the characters without any B plots. And C, I don't have a C, but it always sounds cool when you go in threes. So, yeah, okay. There we go. So we're on my number 1, which is Tempest. Yes,
great episode. Have it. You're number 1.
That's it. So we had the same top 2.
And truthfully, I was bouncing back and forth. I really was, because they're both just incredible episodes.
Yeah, like on a different day, like literally, I could probably watch these back to back right now, and I'd probably be messaging you later, going, "Damn it, I made the wrong choice."
Yep. And I can do the same thing.
Yeah. But it's just, for me, Tempest. It was what I came into the episode in season 4. That was the episode that was the season that kind of got me hooked, because they were rerunning it on E4.
Other than the beeline of season 4 with Lana, but it was a great season. Other than that.
But before I got to season 4, there were a few episodes that I'd seen. Just, I wasn't a fan at that point. But there was some episodes that I just happened to randomly catch. One of them was Hothead. At that point, I was just like, yeah.
I mean, it's not horrible, but it's not great.
No, I do actually think it's a very good episode. But at the time, because I'm a diehard X-Files fan, right?
Was that an X-Files episode?
It was, yeah. It was just.
I need to watch X-Files. Apparently, I love it.
It was a season 1 X-Files episode, and I actually, so I do a podcast with someone else on the X-Files. We're going to be reviewing every episode of the X-Files. So I'm really big on the X-Files. So the first episode of Smallville I ever saw was Hothead, and at the time I was just like, yeah, X-Files ripoff. And then I didn't watch any more episodes after that until Tempest. And I watched Tempest and I was like, whoa, this came on a bit, didn't it? This show, flipping heck. So it blew me away. And unfortunately, because there was a season break and I hadn't been big into the show anyway, I just forgot about it. Completely forgot about it. And the next episode after that I watched was... I can't remember the name of it now, but it's actually one of my favorite episodes. But anyway, that's down the line. So, like I say, Tempest was literally the second episode I ever watched, and it was just, it really made me go, oh, this show's come on a lot since that X-Files ripoff I saw, and it's such a great episode because all the way through it, the weather is building and building.
Yes.
And building, because obviously the episode in the last 5 minutes ends with these tornadoes. These tornadoes hit Smallville, and like you said before, it opens with Lionel coming down, dropping a bomb, just saying, "You're all out of a job. My son's to blame. He's here. You can speak to him. I'm off. Goodbye." And it's like, whoa, okay. And from that point on, the episode just never lets up with its momentum. That momentum just keeps building and building. And in the background, when the scenes are playing, in the background you hear the wind building. Outside you hear the weather getting rougher, and it's doing that all the way through the episode. And by the time we get to the prom, it's really going outside. and it just adds to the tension of
Yeah.
all the character dynamics that are going on at that time. Like you say, Roger Nixon, the stuff between Lionel and his dad, the stuff between Clark and Chloe, because you know that actually Clark isn't fully invested in this relationship. You know, this date.
Sad. That's where
it is. It is sad. That is where he needs to be invested in. I'm right there with you. I've always been a Chloe man. I will always be a Chloe man. And it's just like, but he wasn't. You know, and the moment he has, you know, the moment he finds out that Lana's in trouble, boom, he's off. But so there's a tension, there's an underlying tension there with Chloe and Clark. Chloe even says in an earlier episode that one of her fears is that Clark is going to stand her up at the, you know, at the prom or whatever it's called.
And I remember catching that line because that's exactly what he
does. And so when he does that, we as the audience, we know her worst fear has just been realized. So there's all this tension bubbling away through different character interplays. And it ends on various moments of tension, with John running into the storm after Nixon, with Clark running into a tornado to save Lana and possibly flying. You know, like we don't learn that till next episode, but it's like, how is he going to do this? But even before we see that season 2 opener, where we see that he's flying, when he runs into that tornado, as a viewer, as a Superman fan, you know there's only one way he's getting up there.
Yeah, he's flying.
And controlling his ascent, and that is, you know, flying. So so that opened up the promise of what was going to come. And then obviously the tension of, will Lex let his father die? And this being season 1, Lionel being a character that wasn't in the comic books, so by all accounts he's very expendable. There was no guarantee he was coming back. And us knowing the journey, the path that was set before Lex.
Yeah. It's like
that seemed like the moment. It's like, oh man, it's kicking off. He's gonna let his dad die and go to the dark side. It's like, whoa. So it's just like, so it was so good. And like I say, from the beginning right to the end, it just builds, more tension, bad weather, worse weather, hellish weather, and it's just like, and then boom, it just fades to black as the noise of this storm is going, and you're just like, that is a cliffhanger. That is how you do a cliffhanger. So yeah, like if I had to have a criticism of the episode, and it's a very minor criticism, it's not a criticism that is against logic or anything like that. It is simply that you bring Remy Zero in to mime to one of their own songs. That it
was really bad looking.
Yeah. I hate it when they do it. They do it a few times throughout the series, and it always bugs me. But it's just I feel bad for them.
And then you have the cast walking in like, I really like this song.
Remy Zero, yeah. It's just like,
oh my god.
Like, I love Remy Zero. I love they only made 3 albums and then they split up. But that third album of theirs, absolutely brilliant. But
hey, they'll forever have residuals from Smallville, so they're okay.
Yes, they will. They will. They need to get back together. I thought they were a good band, to be honest. Their third album is fantastic.
That's the only song I know is the Smallville open. So.
Right. Okay. Well, get the third album. That's what that song is off. It's off the third album. It's really good. It kind of has a bit of a U2 flavor to it, but when U2 were good.
Yeah.
So yeah. Where was I? But yeah, that's literally the only sour point in what is otherwise a perfect episode.
I could have done with less Lana. I mean, your favorite thing was happening because it was all about getting Whitney out of there. And you know what? Like you said, it's funny because it's like he's not interesting until they write him off. And so here he is trying to join the army, and you're like, yeah, there you go. Something for Clark to stand out against. Here's a mortal man who is willing to go join the army and lay his life on the line. And here's Clark who, so it's like, wow, that's interesting. And they have to throw Lana in it.
I'm sensing you might not like Lana.
I don't. Not at all, no.
It's just been a few little subtle hints throughout this
It's season
recording.
4 and beyond where she is insufferable. And it's right now, this is misplaced anger because season 1, it's annoying, but that's all it is. It's not like horrible. But it's
I actually think Lana's strongest season is season 5.
No.
Yeah, I do.
The more they try to do with her, the worse she becomes.
We'll get there. We'll get there when we get there. I agree with you. I agree with you for the most part. But if I'm being objective, I think from a story standpoint, from what they give her, first aside, season 5 is her strongest arc.
Well, season 5 is probably my favorite season, but we'll have to wait till we get there.
We'll get there when we get there. Yeah. Okay. So, right. So we've done our we've done our bottom 5. We've done our top 5. Let's give everyone a reminder. So just before we go, this is Durbin's. So as you can see there, just a quick rundown. His worst 5 from worst to most worst is Cool, Reaper, Shimmer, Drone, then Craving. And then his top 5, the best episodes of season 1 for him, obviously, are Leech, Pilot, Hug, and Tempest. And if we just show you mine, this is my rundown, my bottom 5: Shimmer, Metamorphosis, Drone, Kinetic, and Reaper. They're the stinkers for me. There are, like I say, there are a couple of other episodes that could have easily made that list. One of them only saved by Amy Adams for my liking. But and then my top 5 right there: Pilot, Nicodemus, Hourglass, Rogue, and Tempest. So judging from these lists, we can clearly see that Pilot, Rogue, and Tempest are definitely the episodes that we can agree on. They all 3 of those episodes made both of our top 5s. 2 of them made both of our top 2s. So I would say they are definitely the 2 episodes to go and watch from our perspective, at any rate. So I knew what Durbin's were before doing this because I had to put the show notes together. He didn't know what mine was. Any surprises there, Durbin?
Honestly, I've been finding you and me have almost a very similar taste to Smallville, like in a lot of ways. So I wasn't super surprised by your list. And even when he got to Hourglass, I was like, man, he has fighting to put that one in my 5 that I liked. But yeah.
Okay. So well then, that's it. We've had a good show. I really enjoyed that. It's been great to talk Smallville with another fellow Smallville fan. Yes. But it's not over. No. As we say, we are scheduled, or we're hoping to schedule season 2 for Tuesday night over on Durbin's channel, which is Durbania. Go check out that channel. If you've not seen his channel already, go over, give him a subscribe. And my
Smallville season 3 video dropping tomorrow morning. Well, tomorrow morning California time, but Sunday.
Yeah. I've reviewed the first 5 seasons so far. I'm near the end of season 6 in my rewatch. I will be reviewing that as and when I've finished it. But I've been taking a bit of a break because, quite frankly, 6 seasons of Smallville back to back. As much of a fan as I am, there are other things I want to watch as well. 10 seasons is quite a long way. So but I do love it. I love the show, and I'm looking forward to talking season 2 over with. I keep going to call you Durbania, but you're not called Durbania. Your channel's called Durbania. You're called Durbin. So
I'm called Durbin. Yes.
Yeah. So yes, with Durbin over on his channel, season 2, hopefully on Tuesday. This episode got pushed back a day, so who knows what's going to happen. My life is pretty hectic with kids and things like that. So, but yeah, tentatively Tuesday. We'll see you then.
Yep.
Thanks for watching. Cracking.